Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we really get into the weeds. Take apart the complex histories, the dense ideas, the things people often miss, and try to pull out the core insights for you. Today, we're peeling back the layers on a really fascinating piece of history and, well, metaphysics. It's this small, anonymous book from 1908. You might not have heard the name everywhere, but its ideas. They've quietly shaped a huge chunk of modern spiritual thinking.
Yeah, that book is the Kybalion. And it's quite something. Really slim volume, doesn't look like much maybe, but it claims to be this distillation, right? The absolute essence of Hermetic philosophy from ancient Egypt and Greece.
And it boils it down to these 7 universal laws.
Exactly. 7 laws. And it presents itself under this mysterious authorship, just 3 initiates, no names, which of course adds to the mystique.
Yep.
And look, this book, it's basically the bedrock for things like the law of attraction, a lot of New Age thought, a huge amount of Western esoteric stuff. But the story behind it, well, let's just say its claim to ancient origins, is perhaps one of the most clever literary illusions of the 20th century.
So that's what we're digging into today. We've got the original text itself, bits of it anyway. We've got historical records, the real paper trail, and crucially, we've got the academic perspective scholars who've actually done the work, lifting that veil of mystery.
Yeah.
Our mission, really, is to tell the whole story. We want to trace where this really came from. Spoiler. Probably Chicago, not Alexandria.
Yeah.
We'll break down those 7 laws, what they actually mean, what they claim to do, and then we'll hold up its ancient claims against what the research actually shows.
Right. So you, listening, can walk away not just knowing what the Kybalion says, because lots of people quote it, but really understanding why it landed so powerfully, how it actually changed the game in terms of thinking about mind, reality, and, well, personal power.
It's influential, no doubt, but understanding it's a modern synthesis, a kind of neo-Hermeticism.
It almost makes you appreciate its cleverness even more, I think. Its staying power is remarkable, even if it's not quite what it seems on the surface.
Okay, so let's start where it all began, 1908, Chicago, and trying to figure out who these 3 initiates really were.
Yeah, the whole presentation of the Kybalion is just... It's masterful marketing from the get-go. Published 1908, Yogi Publication Society, Chicago.
Right, Chicago. Definitely not ancient Egypt.
Definitely not. But then you look at the subtitle. A study of the Hermetic philosophy of ancient Egypt and Greece. Boom! Right there. It's wrapping itself in this cloak of antiquity. It's deliberate.
And the timing was perfect, wasn't it? Early 20th century.
Absolutely perfect storm. You had this massive cultural interest in the West for, well, alternatives. People were looking beyond traditional religion, fascinated by Eastern ideas filtering in. Theosophy was huge. Spiritualism.
And the New Thought movement, that focus on mind power.
Exactly. New Thought was really taking off this idea that your mind, your thoughts, could directly influence your reality, your health, your success. And the Kybalion arrives, this concise little book, maybe 200 pages, written in this very authoritative instructional tone.
Like a manual.
Precisely. A manual claiming to reveal the secret ancient laws of the universe. It was exactly what that audience was hungry for. A systematic key.
And then there's the authorship, just 3 initiates. That anonymity. It wasn't just hiding names, was it? It felt like a statement.
Oh, completely. It implied these weren't just authors, they were adepts, possessors of secret wisdom, maybe too sacred to advance, to reveal their everyday identities. It builds that aura.
And the motto on the book.
Seals the deal, right. The lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding, which is itself a quote from within the text. There's another line in there. When the ears of the student are ready to hear, then cometh the lips to fill them with wisdom.
So it's setting up this idea that the book itself will find the right readers. If you understand it, you were meant to. If you don't, your ears weren't ready.
Exactly. It's self-selecting. It tells the reader, approach this not just as a book, but as the teaching you've been waiting for. That's incredibly powerful positioning.
But the title, the Kybalion, that itself is a bit of a red flag, isn't it? Sounds ancient, maybe Greek or Egyptian.
It sounds ancient, and that's the point. But the scholarly consensus is pretty clear on this one. The word Kybalion, it doesn't appear anywhere else. No known root in Greek, Coptic, any relevant ancient language.
So it was likely made up.
Almost certainly fabricated for the book. Designed to sound mysterious, maybe echo things like Kabbalah, without actually being tied to any specific tradition. Gives it that universal esoteric feel.
And the book even claims it's quoting an older text called the Kybalion.
Yeah, that's the really clever bit. It creates its own source material. The 1908 book we have is the first time the word Kybalion appears in print, anywhere. yet it presents itself as just a modern commentary on this mythical older source.
Wow. So it builds its own ancient lineage right there on the page.
Out of thin air. It's brilliant, really. And because it landed at just the right cultural moment, people bought it. They accepted it as genuinely ancient wisdom, finally revealed. Hashtag tag 1.2, the true identity.
Okay, so for years, people speculated about who the three initiates might be. I know names like Paul Foster Case, founder of BOTA, often came up.
Oh yeah, those rumors were persistent.
Yeah.
And they definitely helped keep that mystique alive for, gosh, almost a century. Case's work resonated with some of the themes, so it seemed plausible.
But the modern research points elsewhere pretty definitively now.
Yeah, the work by scholars like Philip Dislip, Nicholas Chappell, they've done some really thorough detective work. And the evidence overwhelmingly points to one person as the primary and very likely the sole author.
And that is?
William Walker Atkinson.
Atkinson, the New Thought guy.
The very same. William Walker Atkinson, 1862 to 1932. An American lawyer turned incredibly prolific writer and, crucially, publisher in the New Thought movement.
Okay, let's unpack the evidence, because this feels like cracking a code. Where does it start?
Well, first, the publisher.
Yeah.
Yogi Publication Society. Who owned it? Atkinson.
Ah, okay. That's convenient.
Very. Atkinson wasn't just an author. He was practically a one-man publishing house. He wrote tons of stuff on yoga, mental science, occultism, practical psychology, often under pseudonyms. You might know him as Yogi Ramacharaka or Theron Q. Dumont or Magus Incognito.
Wow. Okay. So he was used to using different personas.
Absolutely. And anything published by Yogi Publication Society was essentially an Atkinson product. That's point one.
What's point two? The content itself.
Exactly. If you read the Kybalion alongside Atkinson's other works, even those under different names, the similarities are just striking. The writing style, the vocabulary, the core philosophical structure.
Which was?
His whole system was often based on enumerating cosmic laws, usually 7 of them. And the focus was always on mental power, mental causation, concepts like mental transmutation, the idea of different planes of reality, matter being just vibration. These pop up again and again, sometimes almost word for word, across his writings. He already had the template.
So the 7 laws in the Kybalion fit a pattern he'd already established.
Perfectly. And then there's the smoking gun, the sort of confession, if you like.
He actually claimed it, but wasn't the whole point the anonymity?
Well, yes and no. The public persona was the mysterious 3 initiates, but get this. In the 1912 edition of Who's Who in America, it's a standard, pretty dry biographical dictionary.
Yeah.
William Walker Atkinson listed the Kybalion right there among his other authored works.
No way. So he kept the public mystery going, but put his name on it in an official record.
Isn't that fascinating? It's like he wanted the marketing mystique and the official credit. It shows the businessman behind the mystic persona.
That really pulls back the curtain.
It does. And just to nail it down further, look at what he published right after the Kybalion. In 1909, he released a series called The Arcane Teachings. Guess what? It also claimed secret knowledge from unpublished scrolls. It also laid out 7 underlying laws, and it used the exact same concepts like 3 great planes and mental alchemy.
Okay, case closed, pretty much.
It really confirms that the Kybalion was Atkinson's take on Hermeticism, filtered through his New Thought lens, using his established 7-law structure.
So the 3 initiates, just a clever bit of stagecraft.
Almost certainly. A theatrical flourish to give it weight, suggest ancient collective wisdom, maybe echo some occult traditions that use triads, but the content really reads like a single consistent voice, Atkinson's voice.
Right. And knowing this, knowing it's a modern American synthesis, changes how we should read it, doesn't it? It's less about ancient secrets revealed and more about
What?
A practical guide.
Exactly. It helps us see it for what it likely was. A practical manual designed for mental mastery in the context of early 20th century American spirituality, not a devotional text from antiquity. And that context is key to understanding its core message.
Okay, so we know the who is likely Atkinson, and the when is 1908. Now let's get into the what. What's the actual philosophy inside the Kybalion? It clearly struck a chord.
It did, and I think its success comes from how it blends really profound, almost ancient-feeling idealistic ideas with very modern practical applications. The structure itself feels like a course.
Yeah, it's very didactic. written to the student.
Right. It builds its worldview systematically, starting from the biggest possible picture, the ultimate reality. And it does pay homage to the tradition it's borrowing from. It invokes Hermes Trismegistus right at the start, calls him the father of the occult wisdom. So it's setting that stage.
So what is that ultimate reality according to the Kybalion? It calls it the all.
Yes, the all. And the text defines it immediately and unequivocally as mind. That's the absolute bedrock of the whole system. The all is infinite. It's living. It's beyond description, really. But fundamentally, it's mind or consciousness.
So it's a form of idealism, the idea that reality is fundamentally mental.
Pure, uncompromising idealistic monism. Everything is one, and that one is mind. It's not a personal God in the traditional sense, more like an infinite thinking principle.
It does sound like it draws from classical Gnosticism or maybe Eastern philosophies like Advaita Vedanta, which were definitely buzzing around in intellectual circles back then.
Absolutely. Atkinson was clearly synthesizing. The Kybalion emphasizes that the all is unknowable, undefinable in human terms. The only thing we can really say about it is that it thinks. And because the all is infinite, it can't create anything outside itself. There is no outside.
So creation has to be internal.
Exactly. Creation happens within the mind of the all, like a form of divine thought or imagination. Hashtag tag PEG 2.2, the mental universe and practical application.
Okay, so that leads straight to the first and most fundamental principle, right? The principle of mentalism.
Master key, yeah. The axiom is the all is mind, the universe is mental. This is the core idea that everything else flows from.
What does that actually mean for us living in the universe? If the universe is mental,
Yeah.
is this table mental? Is my body mental?
According to the Kybalion, yes. Everything we perceive, matter, energy, stars, planets, events, your own body, it's all a manifestation within that infinite mind of the all. Think of it like thought forms or maybe a kind of controlled dream existing within the divine consciousness.
So if that's true, then mental force.
Isn't just a powerful force, it's the only fundamental creative force there is. Because the substance of the universe is mind stuff.
Okay, but hang on. If the universe is just a thought or a dream, doesn't that make everything unreal? Like, can I just decide this wall isn't real and walk through it? That seems problematic.
And this is where the Kybalion shows its pragmatic, almost American sensibility. It tackles this head on. It calls it the divine paradox.
The divine paradox.
From the perspective of the all, yes, the universe is a mental construct. It's not absolutely real in the way the all itself is real, maybe like a vivid dream compared to being awake. But, crucially, for us living within that mental construct on our plane of reality.
We have to treat it as real.
Absolutely. We must live by its laws, interact with it as if it's completely real and solid. The Kybalion actually warns the student very sternly against what it calls presumptuous denial.
Meaning
Thinking you can just ignore the rules of the game because you know it's just a dream. If you try walking through that wall assuming it's not real, you're going to get hurt. You're demonstrating ignorance of the laws governing this level of reality.
So it's a kind of practical idealism. Acknowledge the ultimate mental nature, but respect the rules of the physical plane while you're here.
Exactly. It's a really clever blend. Maybe Eastern Maya concepts meet Western pragmatism. You have to respect the rules of the mental construct to operate effectively within it. And that understanding is the prerequisite for the practical application.
Which is mental transmutation,
In other words,
or mental alchemy.
Right. This is the payoff. If the universe is mental, then the true alchemy isn't turning lead into gold, it's transforming your own mind. Mental transmutation is defined as the art of changing your mental states.
Oh.
By using your will to shift from negative thoughts, feelings, or conditions to positive ones. Moving up the scale, essentially, from a lower mental vibration to a higher one. The book is explicit. True Hermetic transmutation is a mental art.
And this is the direct line to the law of attraction, isn't it?
Absolutely. Crystal clear connection. By saying the universe is mental, it makes thoughts causal. Your mental state isn't just a reaction, it's an active force. This gives the individual agency. It says you can theoretically reshape your reality by mastering your mind.
Which powered the whole new thought focus on visualization, affirmations, positive thinking.
Precisely. It provided the philosophical why. It elevated the mind to the prime mover, justifying these techniques as ways to harness the fundamental power of the mental universe.
Okay, so mentalism is the big idea. The universe is mind. Now, the Kybalion gives us the operating manual for that mental universe, the 7 Hermetic principles. We know Atkinson likely created this specific 7-fold structure, but the principles themselves, they're pretty compelling. Let's break them down.
Yeah, this is really the heart of the book, the core doctrine. And Atkinson's genius, or maybe just his knack for organization, really shows here. These laws are meant to be the keys to moving from being, pushed around by cosmic forces to consciously navigating them. First up is correspondence, and the axiom is probably the most famous line in all of Western esotericism. As above, so below, as below, so above.
Heard that one before. So it's about patterns repeating, like fractals.
Exactly. Think of it as a holographic principle. There's a fundamental harmony, an agreement, a correspondence between the different planes of reality, the physical, the mental, the spiritual. What happens on the grand scale, the macrocosm, is reflected in the small scale, the microcosm.
Like the structure of an atom mirroring a solar system, or patterns in history repeating in personal lives.
Precisely those kinds of analogies. And we know this one has genuine roots. It comes directly from the emerald tablet of Hermes Trismegistus. So this principle has the strongest claim to actual Hermetic lineage.
Okay, cool concept. But how do you use it? What's the practical application for, the student reading this?
Well, the power lies in using the known to understand the unknown. If you see a pattern working on one level, say, you understand the psychology of how individuals react under stress, microcosm. Correspondence suggests you can apply that understanding to how nations might react under stress, macrocosm.
Ah, okay. So it allows for reasoning by analogy across different scales.
Right. It encourages you to see the universe as interconnected, not fragmented. Nothing exists in isolation. If you understand a law operating in physics, you might gain insight into a law operating in metaphysics or society. It's the basis for a lot of symbolic thinking.
And personally, like for self-understanding.
Absolutely. If your outer world, your circumstances, the below, are chaotic and messy, correspondence insists you look at your inner world, your mental state, the above. There must be a reflection. You can't, according to this law, create external order from internal chaos.
So it's a diagnostic tool, too. The inner and outer mirror each other.
That's the idea. It's cosmic resonance. Your mind shapes your reality, and your reality reflects your mind, constantly interacting. Okay, principle number 2, vibration. The axiom here is nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates.
Right. This is the one you said was the big modern insertion. Yeah, not really in the old texts.
Correct. This is pure 19th century influence, bringing in concepts from physics and spiritualism. The idea is simple. Everything in the universe, from the densest matter to the highest spirit, is just energy in motion. It's all vibrating.
And the differences we perceive, like between a rock and a thought,
are just differences in the rate of vibration. That's the key. Higher frequency means finer, more spiritual substance. Lower frequency means denser, more material substance. Spirit and matter are just two poles of the same vibrational spectrum.
Why was this idea so important for Atkinson and his era? What did it do for Hermeticism?
Well, think about the time. Science was making huge leaps understanding electricity, waves, radioactivity. Matter was suddenly seeming less solid, more energetic. This idea of vibration allowed occultists to bridge the gap, to say, see, science is proving our ancient mystical truths, even though, the ancients didn't really talk about vibration this way.
It gave metaphysics a kind of scientific sounding mechanism.
Exactly. It took spiritual states, which seem intangible, and framed them as quantifiable frequencies, like tuning radio. If you're feeling down, sad, angry, that's a low vibration. If you're feeling joy, love, peace, that's a high vibration.
And the application then is?
Change the vibration to change the condition. This is absolutely central to the Kybalion's practical system. You use mental transmutation, your focused will, your thoughts, to deliberately raise your mental frequency.
To tune yourself to a better state.
Precisely. And by extension, since the universe is mental and vibrates, if you raise your mental vibration high enough, you can influence lower vibrations, including, theoretically, the vibrations of matter itself. It underpins the whole idea of raising your vibration that's so common today.
Okay, moving on. Principle 3. Polarity. The axiom. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree, extremes meet. Quite a mouthful.
Yeah, it packs a lot in. But the core idea is the unity of opposites. Everything has two sides, a pair of extremes. Think hot and cold, light and dark, love and hate, courage and fear.
But the key phrase there is identical in nature, but different in degree. What does that mean?
It means that these opposites aren't fundamentally different things. Hot and cold aren't separate phenomena. They're just different points on the same scale, the scale of temperature. They're both expressions of thermal energy, just differing in their vibrational intensity, you could say.
Like your example of ice and steam both being H2O, just at different energy levels.
Perfect analogy. Same substance, different degree of expression. And this principle applies to everything, including mental states. Love and hate aren't two distinct emotions fighting each other. They are poles of the same underlying emotional energy.
Okay. So how does knowing this help the student?
This is the philosophical justification for how mental transmutation works. If love and hate are just degrees of the same thing, you don't need to eradicate hate. You just need to change its polarity. You use your will to mentally slide along that spectrum, raising the vibration from the negative pole, hate, towards the positive pole, love.
So you're not destroying the energy, you're transforming its expression.
Exactly. The energy itself is neutral. Its polarity determines its effect. This principle tells the student that no state is fixed. If you're experiencing fear, the potential for courage already exists within that same mental substance. You just need to change the degree.
That sounds easier said than done, requires serious mental focus.
Oh, absolutely. It's about mastering your internal state, refusing to see any condition as absolute, understanding that the difference between poverty and wealth, or sickness and health, might also be seen as poles of a continuum, potentially subject to transmutation by shifting the underlying mental degree. It's a radical idea about agency. All right, principle 4, rhythm, the axiom. Everything flows out and in, everything has its tides, all things rise and fall. Rhythm compensates.
So cycles, pendulum swings, ebb and flow.
Exactly. This principle states that movement is inherent in everything, and this movement always manifests as a measured swing from one pole to the other and back again, like a pendulum. High tide follows low tide, night follows day, boom follows bust.
And that phrase, rhythm compensates, what does that imply?
It means the swing to one side dictates the intensity of the swing back to the other. The height of the rise determines the depth of the fall. This applies to moods, too. A period of intense elation is often followed by a corresponding swing into melancholy or apathy. The universe seeks balance through these cycles.
Okay, but if this is an absolute law and the swing must happen, doesn't that feel a bit fatalistic? Like, why bother trying to be happy if a downswing is guaranteed?
That's the natural question, right?
Yeah.
And it could lead to passivity. But the Kybalion offers an escape clause, or rather, a method of mastery. It's called the law of neutralization.
Neutralization? How do you neutralize a universal law?
You don't abolish the law itself. The pendulum will still swing. But the master, the adept student, learns to avoid being swept away by the extremes of the swing. They use the principle of polarity consciously. By achieving a higher state of consciousness, they stand mentally above the swing. When they feel the pull towards an extreme, say, deep sadness after joy, they use their will to maintain their mental equilibrium. They refuse to be carried all the way down. They find the center point.
So they detach from the emotional intensity of the swing.
Precisely. It's very much like Stoicism or Buddhist equanimity. You observe the rhythm, you acknowledge the tendency to swing to extremes, but you consciously choose not to identify with it. You remain centered by applying your will on a higher mental plane.
So you're not starping the river, but you're learning not to be pulled under by the current.
That's a great way to put it. You become aware of the rhythm and use your understanding to manage your response rather than being a victim of it. It's about achieving mental poise amidst the natural fluctuations of life, a really practical skill. Principle 5 is cause and effect, axiom. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law.
Okay, this sounds pretty straightforward. Everything happens for a reason, no accidents.
Exactly. It posits a universe governed by strict causal order. There's no such thing as randomness or luck. What we call chance is just ignorance. We haven't yet perceived the hidden causes or the complex chain of events leading to that effect.
So very deterministic, like clockwork.
In a sense, yes. Everything is linked in an unbreakable chain of cause and effect. This resonates strongly with concepts like karma in Eastern thought actions create ripples, effects that must play out.
What's the implication for the student if everything is predetermined by prior causes? Again, where's the free will?
But the Kybalion flips it. Instead of seeing it as purely deterministic, it frames it as a call to absolute personal responsibility.
How so?
If nothing happens by chance, then your current situation, your health, wealth, happiness, circumstances, is the effect of causes that came before. Many of those causes, the text implies, were set in motion by you, whether consciously or unconsciously, through your thoughts, beliefs, and actions.
So stop blaming luck or other people. Own your part in creating your reality.
That's the core message. Stop being a passive effect, tossed about by external forces or past conditioning. The goal is to rise to a higher plane of causation.
How do you do that?
By understanding and applying the other laws. By mastering your mind, mentalism. By choosing your vibration, by managing polarity, by neutralizing rhythm, you move from being acted upon to being the one who acts. You consciously choose the causes you want to set in motion to bring about the effects you desire.
So you become a causer instead of just an effect.
Precisely. You move from being a pawn on the chessboard of life, moved by hidden forces, to becoming a player who understands the rules and makes deliberate moves. It's about reclaiming agency by working with the law, not against it or in ignorance of it. Okay, final principle we'll detail here, number 6. Gender, the axiom. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes.
No, this one often trips people up, right? It's not just about male and female bodies.
Not at all. That's the most common misunderstanding. In the Kybalion's context, gender refers to universal, complementary creative energies or principles found in everything. It uses the terms masculine and feminine symbolically.
Okay, so what do masculine and feminine represent here?
The masculine principle is described as the active, outgoing, assertive force. It's the principle of will, projection, giving direction, initiating action, giving form. The feminine principle is the receptive, nurturing, passive, in the sense of receiving, not weakness, force. It's about incubation, generation, intuition, providing the substance or field for creation.
And the idea is that all creation needs both.
Yes. Whether it's creating a baby, a business, a piece of art, or even just a new thought, it requires the interplay of these two principles. The masculine initiates and directs. The feminine receives, nurtures, and brings it into manifestation. One can't create without the other.
How does this apply mentally? The Kybalion talks about mental gender.
This is where it gets really practical for self-mastery. Your own mind contains both principles. The masculine aspect is often identified with the conscious mind, the I, the focused will, the logical intellect that decides and directs.
Okay. And the feminine?
That's often linked to the subconscious or unconscious mind, the realm of intuition, imagination, emotion, memory, and pleasure, the vast, fertile ground where ideas take root and grow. It's receptive to the seeds planted by the conscious will.
So for mental transmutation to work effectively, you need both working together.
Absolutely. You need the masculine will to consciously choose the thought or state you want to create, to provide the focus and direction. But you also need the feminine subconscious to accept that idea, to nurture it with feeling and belief, to allow it to gestate without constantly resisting or doubting it.
Ah, so if your conscious mind, masculine, keeps saying, I want to be confident, but your subconscious, feminine, is full of doubt and fear and rejects that seed,
then creation fails. You get imbalance. Too much masculine without the receptive feminine leads to forceful but sterile ideas, all planning, no manifestation. Too much feminine without the directing masculine leads to drifting imagination, unfocused feeling, all potential, no concrete result.
So the goal is inner harmony between will and imagination, logic and intuition.
Exactly. Cultivating that balanced cooperation within your own mind is key to becoming a master of mental creation, according to this principle.
Wow. Okay, that's a really comprehensive system. Starts with the universe being mind, and then gives these 6 laws, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause, effect, and gender, as the rules governing how that mental universe operates and how we can operate within it. So we've laid out this elegant 7-part system. It feels complete, powerful. But now we have to circle back to that crucial question. How much of this is actually ancient Hermeticism, as the book claims? Where does Atkinson's 1908 synthesis align with the classical stuff, and where does it dramatically diverge?
Right. This is the critical lens we need to apply. And it's not about dismissing the Kybalion's usefulness, but about historical accuracy. Is it fair to call it Hermetic philosophy from ancient Egypt and Greece? Well, mostly no. It's neo-Hermeticism. Hashtag 4.1, what Kybalion got right. Shared traits. But let's be fair first. Atkinson was clever. He didn't just make everything up. There are genuine points of resonance, which is why the disguise worked so well.
Like the core idea of idealism.
Absolutely. The foundational concept that the ultimate reality is divine mind, the nous, in the classical Greek Hermetic texts like the Corpus Hermeticum, that aligns pretty well with the Kybalion's the all is mind. Both traditions see the cosmos as an emanation or thought within a divine consciousness. That's a strong link.
And correspondence, we already mentioned, comes straight from the Emerald Tablet.
Yep. As above, so below is arguably the single most authentic piece of classical Hermetic wisdom in the entire Kybalion. That principle of cosmic analogy is central to both.
What about duality, polarity, and gender?
Well, classical Hermeticism, especially its alchemical branches and related Gnostic thought, was definitely concerned with duality and the union of opposites. Think sulfur and mercury in alchemy or concepts of divine father-mother principles. The Kybalion took these somewhat scattered ideas about active-passive, projective-receptive forces and systematized them into the distinct principles of polarity and gender.
So the raw ingredients were sort of there in the tradition, but Atkinson packaged them differently.
Exactly. He took existing thematic elements and gave them a much clearer, more structured, maybe more modern framework. So there are threads connecting it back. Hashtag 4.2, the modern departures, scholarly critique.
Okay, now for the big differences. Where does the Kybalion really go off script from the ancient sources?
The biggest, most obvious departure is the sevenfold structure itself.
The list of 7 principles.
Yes. You simply do not find a list of 7 Hermetic principles like this in any known ancient Hermetic text. The classical works, the Corpus Hermeticum, the Asclepius, they're more like philosophical dialogues, mystical revelations, hymns. They don't present a numbered, systematic curriculum of laws.
So that structure is pure Atkinson, or at least pure late 19th, early 20th century thinking.
Very much so. It reflects that era's fascination with systematizing knowledge, creating neat categories and hierarchies. Think of how Theosophy loved its complex classifications. It makes esoteric ideas feel more scientific, more learnable, like a textbook. Ancient Hermeticism was generally more fluid, more evocative.
And the principle of vibration. We know it's modern, but what's the implication of adding it?
It fundamentally changes the nature of the spiritual path presented. Classical Hermeticism aimed for gnosis, direct, intuitive knowledge or union with the divine mind, nous, achieved through contemplation, virtue, maybe liturgy or ritual. It was deeply spiritual, often devotional.
But vibration makes it mechanical.
Precisely. It reframes spiritual attainment as a matter of frequency modulation. You don't necessarily need piety or mystical insight. You need to learn the technique of raising your vibration. It shifts the focus from union with God to mastering universal laws. It makes metaphysics feel more like engineering.
Which leads to the theological difference you mentioned earlier.
Yes. Classical Hermetic texts are often deeply theistic, concerned with the soul's journey, purification, returning to the divine source. The Kybalion, by contrast, feels quite impersonal, almost deistic. The all is an abstract principle, mind, but it's remote, unknowable. There's no real emphasis on devotion, prayer, or salvation in the religious sense.
The focus is squarely on mental skill and self-mastery.
Exactly. Scholars like Nicholas Chappell really emphasize this. The Kybalion is oriented towards practical occultism and self-help. Mental transmutation is about changing your mind to change your circumstances. The ancient texts were generally more focused on transforming the soul for spiritual enlightenment. It's a different goal.
So the verdict is pretty clear then.
The scholarly consensus is that the Kybalion is not ancient scripture, nor even a direct summary of it. It's a modern, syncretic work, a cornerstone of neo-Hermeticism, deeply influenced by American New Thought, cleverly dressed in the language and authority of ancient Hermeticism.
Which doesn't make it bad or wrong, just not what it claims to be on the tin.
Exactly. It's important to appreciate it for what it is, a powerful, influential, modern philosophical system, rather than mistaking it for a direct transmission from ancient Egypt. Knowing the context helps you understand its specific aims and biases.
Okay, so it's a modern text, brilliantly disguised, but that disguise, or maybe just the clarity of its system, clearly worked. Its influence over the last century has been massive, hasn't it? Even if people don't always know the source.
Oh, absolutely pervasive. Its success comes down to providing that clear, actionable framework. The 7 laws gave people a map, a coherent way to understand themselves and the universe, especially outside traditional religious structures. Hashtag 5.1, propagating the ideas.
Let's trace that influence. The most obvious connection is the law of attraction, right?
It's the direct intellectual ancestor. You really can't understand the philosophical underpinnings of the law of attraction without the Kybalion. Mentalism, the all is mind, provides the foundation. Thoughts are real forces in a mental universe. Vibration gives the mechanism. Thoughts operate at frequencies. Correspondence explains the result. Like attracts like. Cause and effect provides the responsibility. You attract what you mentally cause.
It gave the whole mind-power movement its operating system.
Pretty much. It offered a seemingly logical, almost scientific-sounding explanation for why techniques like visualization and affirmation should work. It wasn't just wishful thinking. It was applying universal laws.
And it wasn't just New Thought folks who picked it up. Established esoteric groups adopted it too.
Yeah, definitely. Groups like Paul Foster Case's BOTA, even though he wasn't the author, found it useful. Some Rosicrucian orders incorporated its ideas. And key figures in 20th century magic, like Israel Regardie, who was crucial for preserving and transmitting Golden Dawn teachings, actually recommended the Kybalion.
Why? If they knew it wasn't ancient.
Because it was such a clear, concise primer. It took complex, often obscure occult concepts and boiled them down into 7 easily digestible principles. For someone starting out, it provided a fantastic philosophical entry point before tackling, say, Renaissance magic texts or dense alchemical symbolism. It bridged the gap.
And then the New Age movement in the 60s, 70s, 80s, it just absorbed these ideas wholesale.
It was like a ready-made toolkit waiting for them. The 7 laws became a kind of common language, a framework to synthesize everything Eastern karma could be mapped onto cause and effect, yin-yang onto gender and polarity, quantum physics ideas onto vibration. It provided a structure for that whole eclectic mix.
So when you hear people today talking about raising your vibration, or good vibes only, or balancing masculine and feminine energies,
That's direct lineage, often consciously or unconsciously, back to the Kybalion. Those phrases, those concepts, were codified and popularized by this text and the movements it spawned.
it's interesting how these ideas also bled into more mainstream areas like psychology or even business coaching.
Totally. Think about concepts like taking responsibility for your outcomes, cause and effect, managing your mindset through ups and downs, neutralization rhythm, the power of focused intention, mentalism transmutation. These are staples in performance coaching, leadership training, even some forms of therapy now.
Just without the spooky Hermetic language.
Exactly. The principles get secularized, stripped of the occult terminology, but the underlying mechanics, the idea that mastering internal states governs external results according to certain laws, that remains fully intact. It's Atkinson's practical, results-oriented philosophy finding ever wider application. Hashtag 5.2 from secret societies to streaming services.
It's pretty amazing how a book that started out pretending to be secret wisdom is now, well, kind of everywhere. It pops up in pop culture as a signifier of deep, hidden knowledge.
It really does. It's become cultural shorthand.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Netflix show Dark earlier.
Right, that German time travel series. Complex stuff.
Incredibly complex. And fundamentally, it's all about inescapable cycles, patterns repeating across generations, the interconnectedness of past, present, future, themes straight out of the Kybalion, particularly rhythm and correspondence.
And there's that scene, I think season 2, where a character just has a copy of the Kybalion sitting on their shelf.
Exactly. It's a deliberate Easter egg. The creators are basically flashing a sign saying, this is the philosophical rulebook for the crazy universe we've built. It confirms the Kybalion's status as the go-to text when storytellers want to signal deep, cyclical, esoteric laws at play.
And beyond specific references like that, the basic ideas are just ambient now, especially online.
Oh, completely. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, channels and influencers constantly repackage the 7 universal laws. Sometimes they credit the Kybalion, often they don't. It's just presented as timeless wisdom. You see endless posts about manifestation, vibration, polarity.
The motto itself, "The lips of wisdom are closed," gets used all the time as a standalone quote.
It's become part of the general spiritual or self-help lexicon. The Kybalion succeeded because it translated complex idealism into a very practical, systematic, almost mechanistic toolkit. And in our modern world, which loves systems, steps, and efficiency, that's proven incredibly durable.
So its power isn't really derived from being ancient?
Its power comes from being useful, systematically useful. It offers a sense of order and agency in a complex world. Hashtag tag outro.
So we've really covered the ground here. From William Walker Atkinson likely writing this in 1908 Chicago, cloaking it in the mystery of the 3 initiates, to unpacking the core idea of mentalism, the universe's mind, and then detailing those 7 principles that supposedly govern it.
Yeah, and we've seen the irony, right? It's a thoroughly modern American book, a synthesis reflecting its time.
Yeah.
But it achieved its goal by borrowing the gravitas of ancient Hermeticism. And it created something genuinely powerful in the process.
And hopefully we've shown that understanding the whole story, knowing it's modern, knowing its context, doesn't necessarily diminish its impact. If anything, it helps us see why it was so impactful.
Exactly. It's not about debunking it to dismiss it. It's about seeing it clearly. Not as divine scripture, but as a specific philosophical model designed for personal empowerment, for mastering the self by working with what it presents as universal laws.
The core message seems to be about shifting from passive victim to active creator, doesn't it? Freedom through understanding and applying the rules.
That's the promise. You gain mastery not by fighting the laws, but by understanding them well enough to use them consciously. moving from being an effect to being a cause.
Okay, so let's leave our listeners with something practical, drawing on the principles themselves. We talked about cause and effect, and we talked about rhythm, those inevitable cycles.
Two really powerful ones to combine.
So for you listening, think about a recurring pattern in your life, maybe a cycle where you feel really up, motivated, high energy, and then inevitably swing down into a slump feeling low, unmotivated. That's rhythm.
A common experience.
Instead of just writing that pendulum down and feeling like a victim of the low point being an effect, think about cause and effect. What causes do you typically set in motion when you're in that downswing?
Yeah, what thoughts do you think? What beliefs kick in? What actions do you take or fail to take? Those are causes that will create future effects, potentially reinforcing the low state.
So the challenge based on the Kybalion would be, can you, right now, consciously choose to apply mental transmutation? Can you deliberately choose a different cause even while feeling the pull of that downswing?
Maybe it's focusing on gratitude, a high vibration cause, despite feeling low. Maybe it's taking one small positive action, a masculine principle cause, instead of succumbing to inaction. What if you chose to be a deliberate causer of your next mental state, rather than just a passive effect of the current rhythm?
What would that imply? What might shift if you consciously intervened in that cycle by choosing a different cause? That's the kind of active engagement the Kybalion encourages.
If the universe truly is mental, as it claims, then your ability to direct your own mind is your greatest power. That's the essence of the mastery it promises.
A powerful thought to chew on. If this deep dive has piqued your interest, definitely check out the Kybalion itself, but maybe also explore some actual classical Hermetic texts like the Corpus Hermeticum. See the differences, see the similarities, get the whole picture.
Absolutely. Understand the spectrum.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.